We finally got concrete in the barn, at least in the Rabbitry section. We're gonna do the other half of the barn next year, but right now we just had the funds to do the Rabbitry section, which in my opinion is the most important part anyway. And because we have concrete now, I didn't want the rabbits to just be able to pee and poop all over it, because if you guys saw my setup before, then you'll know that we just had like the top row had trays and then the bottom row would just pee and poop like on the dirt ground, because then I could just rake it up and then clean it up like that. But now that we have concrete, everybody has trays. And if you'll remember me saying this, we're just not gonna be dealing with trays anymore. I'm sick of trays, so sick of them. Then you might be wondering why I decided to go back to having trays for all of my rabbits. And honestly, the answer is just because there are so many different ways to house rabbits, and for my specific situation now, since I have a concrete floor, this is just the best solution that I can come up with. I don't think that anybody really likes having trays under their rabbit cages. We just kind of wish that the pee and poop and wasted hay would just all go away on its own, but we know that that is not possible. So trays are just going to become a responsibility. With having all of these rabbits, there's gonna come responsibility with that. And yes, sometimes that we can try to make things as easy as possible on ourselves, but I think that trays are just one of those things that I am not gonna be able to get away from. And I don't plan on expanding the amount of cages that I have either. But aside from trays, I am actually very, very excited about these stackers because they are very simple to make. And I'm gonna show you guys how I make them. I've gotta make another lime green one today. If you're wondering why I'm choosing these colors, it's because it's my logo color. So we've got the nice vibrant teal, and we've also got the lime green because I've got that little leaf thing in my logo. I feel like a rabbitry that is really colorful and clean and nice to look at is one that I want to come into more. And I like hanging out with my rabbits, so if the colors make me happy, then that is what we're gonna go with. So on to making the stacker. I wanna show you guys how simple these are to make. And really quick, I did want to talk about the wood that I'm using. You can choose to get 2x2s, which if you don't want to rip a 2x4 in half, obviously I would go with a 2x2, but my thing is we are strictly on a budget, and it doesn't make any sense to me that a 2x2 costs almost as much as a 2x4, at least at Arlo's, that's what it is. So I've been getting 2x4s and splitting them in half to kind of cut that price in half almost. So that's what you can do if you want to. Before I can make the stacker, actually I have to get into the horse trailer that I still have some rabbits in because they were living in a horse trailer while we were concreting the barn. So I need to get all of their cages out of the horse trailer and like torch them and really super clean them, because I'm trying not to put anything back in the barn unless it's been like thoroughly cleaned and disinfected, because that's just the way I like my rabbitry to be. So anyway, we're gonna pull those cages out of the horse trailer and we're going to torch them and scrub them up, and then we're going to make the stacker and put them in there, and then it is going to go back there with the rest of them. In case you were wondering what the horse trailer situation looks like, it looks like a disaster area. So I need to take all 3 of these 30x30 modulars out of here. Look how nasty everything looks. Oh my gosh. Look at all this crap down here. This is why I wanted to put plastic down in here, because whenever you house rabbits temporarily on a floor that you don't want to get nasty, plastic is necessary. So the way I actually had these in here is I just zip tied them. So I gotta cut all the zip ties. I have it zip tied to the actual horse trailer right there because we're all leaning forward in here and I didn't want them like falling forward. You can actually see how this cage is like trying to fall off, but it can't because it's zip tied. But anyway, this is, I can't wait to get them out of here. We've already gotten over half of them in the barn, so I'm just really excited to get the rest of them out and back into the barn where we can make sure to keep everybody super clean on the concrete. these are the first cuts we need to make. So first off, we have 4 of these really tall ones. They are 70 1/4 inch in length. And then these 4 over here, we're gonna have at 30 1/2 inches. And then 4 more, and these are gonna be 27.25 inches. The first thing that I actually do is I make the top and the bottom for it. So we're gonna go ahead and put that together. Before I go any further, this is what like the bottom looks like where the tray goes in. The tray sits on top of this. And it's also the exact same on the top. So, you know, you could put something on top of your stacker if you wanted to. And it just gives it a little bit more structure. But I do need to mention that if you're gonna be ripping a 2x4 1/2 like me, the dimensions are a little bit different. So like a 2x2 is actually 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And if you rip a 2x4 in half, like equally, it's actually 1.5 inches by 1 3/4 inches. So I have the taller edge on the side here. So this is the taller edge, and then this is the shorter edge. This is 1.5, this is 1 3/4. So just make sure when you're putting these together to put the 1 3/4 inches side over here, because if you don't, I'll show you what happens. We put the short side down here, and then it gets all wonky. I like to be very precise, so short end is on top, and then the wider end is on the side here. I do need to flip this like this temporarily. When I drill my pilot holes, I'll have it laying down, but then I'll flip it back up, and then I'll screw through into this one. So just keep the longer edges facing up if you can. It just adds a little bit more stability, and also I don't want you to mess up on your dimensions at all, but I just figured that was worth mentioning. I'm going to show you what I do to keep things really lined up. I've got my pilot hole and a screw already started on this one, but on this one, I'll show you what I did. So I took my tape measure and I measured over 3 inches. You can see kind of my dot below where the pilot hole was screwed in, but I want my screw to go in right around 3 inches, and it's the same on this side. So right around 3 inches. And since this board right here is 1.5 inches wide, half of 1.5 is 0.75 or 3/4. So on either side of this hole, I need about 3/4 of an inch. So when I flip it, it's gonna look like this when the screws go in. So what I did was I measured and I put a dot right around 2 1/4 of an inch, because 3 inches minus 3/4 of an inch is 2 1/4. So I put this little dot here, and then when I go to screw it in, I want to line this one right up with my little dot here. So that'll be on the end there. And then the hole should be going straight through this board right here. So Ari is our helper right now, and we are putting the 70 1/4 inch pieces laying down like this. Need to make pilot holes right here, and then they're gonna screw straight into this one. And we need to do that on all 4 corners. And then we will flip it and use these extra 2 over here and do the other side. Okay, so this is the bottom, all right. I went ahead and I marked 27.5 inches up and drilled a pilot hole. And then from the bottom again, marked 49.5 inches and drew a pilot hole. Did the same on the other side, so pilot holes are all ready to go. And now my pieces that are going on the side are gonna be attached right here, right there, right there, and then we will flip it and drill it in on the other side as well. So the casters that I'm using are from Harbor Freight. They're these little tiny things here, and they're only like $1.99 a piece, which is actually really, really good. The way I put these in is I have these shorter screws here, and I don't make pilot holes for these. I just screw really, really slow. The faster that you screw these screws into this thin wood, it has a better tendency to crack, which we do not want, but we do want to be able to get this screwed in all 4 places, just so all of our wheels are nice and stable. I went ahead and brought one of my cages in here. So we're gonna go ahead and put a cage in there, and I'll show you guys how I space it so the trays fit under and all of that. So a tray is about 2.5 inches deep. I want to make sure that I have enough room beneath my cages to easily be able to pull out my trays, because one of the mistakes that I made a long time ago with an older hutch before I was really doing a lot of YouTube is I made barely enough room between the cage and the tray to slide the tray in. There's a lot of problems with that. First of all, it's hard to get the tray out if it's too jam-packed in there. And second, if your rabbit wastes a lot of hay, or if you don't clean it out enough and the poop starts piling up, it gets stuck and it's not fun trying to get it out. So I've been trying to make sure that I have a couple of inches between the tray and the cage, so we have enough headway for that tray to easily pull out. So the way that I have been doing this is, obviously, to put the first cage in, we need it to be sitting on something. So what I jimmied up here is I have a 2x4, and a 2x4 is about 3.5 inches wide when you set it like this. And I also have this scrap piece of wood, which is about 3/4 of an inch. So what I've been doing is, especially on the bottom here, when I get this started, is I'll put this here, and then I have another one, and this here. And then I have this scrap piece of wood, put it down, and put this one down. So now I'm gonna put my cage on top of that. It's gonna be able to rest level, and instead of having to hoist it up as I'm screwing the cage into the frame, it just sits there, which makes it so much easier, because I was trying to do it a much harder way before, and this just makes it a lot easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw the first cage in. And to screw the cages in, I just have these little screws like I was showing you, and washers. And just put the screw into the washer like so. And the washer is wider than the wire on the cage, so it just holds it in place. And I'll show you when I get that screwed in. You can tell I made my measurements like kind of spot on and almost too tight trying to get that cage in there. but it does fit perfectly within the frame, and it's on top of my wooden blocks here. So this is how much space between the cage and the tray we're looking at, which is perfecto. I really like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw the cage in to put you guys inside the cage and see if you can see that any better. So this is the corner of my cage I want to put it in. I want to put it in this second square down, and then I just use this, get all the way up there, and screw it in. I don't want to tighten all of these until I've got them all in there because it's already really, really snug. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. That is what it looks like. It's very hard to show you these details so tiny, but that's what it looks like, and it just kind of holds the cage in place, and we want to do it in all 4 corners at the top. It's not really necessary to do it at the bottom, so I'm just going to do the 4 top corners here so it's kind of suspended within the frame. I can somehow fit through the cage door. So I tend to go into the cage door and screw the rest of them in, but if you can't, which a lot of people can't do that, you can screw this in, like you can put it through the wire right here. I don't know if you can see any of this, but then you can screw it in at an angle like that. And that's pretty easy to do. I like to get mine as straight on as I can, so I'm gonna look goofy and go in the cage and do it like that. Okay, so now my first cage is in, so I'm gonna go ahead and take out my wood braces down there. They have been very helpful to me. I've used these for like all of the stackers that I've made so far. It's made it very straight, so I don't know, maybe it will help you guys as well. I do use them for the second row as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and put them up here. And for the third row, I don't use them. I actually zip tie the third cage to the very top. Makes it a little bit neater. And I'm gonna go ahead and stack these up here and bring the next cage in. So, unfortunately, the battery on my camera died as I was finishing up the stacker in this video, but fortunately, the rest was pretty self-explanatory, just screwing in the cages and then sliding in the trays. But I am going to go ahead and pull one of my stackers out and show you what it looks like all completed. Also, if you enjoy my content, I would also like to point out that I do have merchandise, and it is on my website, tealstonehomestead.com. And not just this shirt, but a lot of different t-shirt designs on there, most of them revolving around rabbits in some way or form or shape. So definitely go check that out. Every sale of my merchandise definitely helps me to continue creating for you guys, and I love doing it. So for the bottom row, the tray just sits on the bottom of the frame here. This is why we use those spacers in between the frame and the first cage. And the tray just slides in and out very easily. It's easy for me to get in there and clean them out when I need to. And then it just slides back in really easily as well. And then for the second and third cage above, the trays simply sit on the cage below it. So this tray is just on top of the bottom cage and slides in and out very easily. Same with this top one up here. It is also just sitting on top of this cage. So this is this tray. Easily pulls in and out on the top as well. I know this video is like mainly for the cages, but I also get a lot of questions about the bowls that I use for water. And I swear this is a clean bowl, you guys. We just have well water, and it tends to leave rings around things. I really like these bowls a lot. They're called twist-on water bowls or crocks or whatever you want to call them. But they have these little twist-on thingies down here. twist on thingies is the most technical term. But it is made to specifically twist onto 1/2 inch by 1 inch wire, which is the floor wire that all of my rabbits have. So sometimes rabbits can be little poops and like to throw things. So for their water bowls, I don't want them to throw water because obviously we have trays. Rabbits can make messes, so I just don't want them to throw their water around. And I know that you can get these from All Things Bunnies online. You can get them from like local cage dealers as well. And a lot of the times I get mine from a company called CAGES out of Michigan. And they have really nice high quality products. These don't just come in teal either, they come in purple, orange, blue, all kinds of colors. All you have to do really is you just put the bowl in, find where the tab can go through the wire and then twist it on, and then they can't lift it out. So it's really nice to make sure that your rabbits don't spill their water out anywhere. All of my feeders are from Tractor Supply, and these are called J feeders. You can open the lid and all of their food goes inside of the J feeder. There's a mesh screen on the bottom of it, so all of the dust and what we call fines of the rabbit pellets, stuff that we don't want the rabbits to really inhale, falls out of the mesh. Then they're just left with clean, non-dusty pellets. You do have to cut your cage in order for them to attach, and this is what they look like on the inside of the cage. We also have these little bell balls for many of our rabbits, and some of them have cat toys as well. They really like to pick these up and throw them around, and so it prevents them from being bored. They really like their toys. And last of all of my rabbits have a wire hay rack in their cages, and I just feel like it's important for rabbits to get hay. I know that pellets are technically a complete feed, but whenever you can get more fiber in a rabbit's diet, it is never a bad thing, and I will scream it from the rooftops, you guys. It is never a bad thing to get more fiber into the rabbits. So now that you've seen what my stackers and my cages consist of, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a tour of what my rabbitry looks like now. I'm very excited. I'm very happy with how it's turned out. It's very colorful and I just love it. Like, it makes me really happy to walk in here and take care of them, just because everything is like so much cleaner and so much more well put together. And I'm just really happy about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it looks like. You guys found this video helpful and inspiring if you are looking for a way to put your modular wire rabbit cages in like some sort of a stacker system. This has definitely been one of the coolest things I've done with my rabbits, and I've housed my rabbits in a lot of different ways. And if you've been with me on this journey for the last several years, you will know that I'm probably the YouTuber that has redone my rabbitry more than anybody else. It's so much fun to me to keep improving things and keep learning things, and it's fun. Rabbits are fun. There's so many different ways to house rabbits, and being able to change things and mold with the times has definitely been something that I've been learning to do. So I'm very happy with how the rabbitry looks, I'm happy with how it functions, and I'm hoping to keep it this way for a long time now. If this is the first video that you watched of my channel, I definitely encourage you to watch a couple more of my videos. I have videos explaining wire flooring for rabbits. I have processing videos of like how to butcher rabbits. I have lots of different rabbit housing situations that I kind of do how-tos on. And really, it's just, my channel is obsessed with rabbits, and I know that you guys love it and I love it, so that's what I just keep bringing to the table. So if you are interested in that, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.